Hello, and welcome to our first virtual make and take. Today we're going to be making this lovely card that allows you to add dimension to any stamp, just about any stamp anyways. So this is our card, and you can use any stamp, for example this one, multiple layers to create dimension. This one is another good example of a stamp you could use. And then today we're going to be using this stamp to create our card. First you need to get 3 squares of paper like I have here, or however many levels you're going to have, that number of squares. And then you take your stamp, and I'm going to use Stays on Ink, but you could use, a Versamark to emboss it or whatever, but today we're just going to use simple Stays on Ink and just dab it around and stamp it up. But like I said, you can emboss, each layer to add more dimension to it, or use different color inks or whatever you want. But you're just basically going to stamp each card that you have here for your thing. And so if you're going to have 3 levels, which we're going to do today, we're going to make 3 equal stamps. So I've got my 3 equal stamps here, just making sure they're the same size because I kind of messed up on one. But as you can see on one here, right there, that it kind of messed up, but that's okay because we're just going to use that center part for another level and cut that out. So now I'm going to get my colored pencils. You can use colored pencils, or you can use chalk, or whatever water-based colors. If you use Stays on Ink, don't use Copic because it'll just rub the black ink around. But today we're going to use colored pencils. You can use whatever you want, watercolor markers, or chalk, as I said. Bear with me, I'm just getting some things situated here. Alright, so we're just going to pick our first colors. And, I'm going to go with some lighter colors on the edge. And we're just going to start coloring. Now I'm going to highlight the edges around just to kind of bring out some color. You can do whatever you want. I mean, it's pretty much up to you and your likes and however you want to do it, and you can pick whatever colors you want. I'm just going to do an alternating colors on the petals here, and so just kind of highlight around the edges and give it some standout. If you emboss the edges, you probably don't need to do this highlight, and you can just kind of color in. But like I said, I decided. So then I'm just going to color in the shade, the major area, with a lighter color to just give it some dimension, hopefully, without embossing. And I'm just going to continue around. Once I do this, I'll do the other colors. Now this is my base flower, so this is what's going to make the base of that dimension. So again, I'm going to use two different colors, a lighter and a darker. I just continue around what I didn't color. It's kind of the long drawn out part of it, but it's again, you got to start with the foundation and work your way up. And we just color it in. Be little happy colors. And then just continue around and continue around. So now I've got my base colors here, kind of skipped out, and so now that I've got that kind of the outside colors on my second level, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the same color scheme. I don't have to do the whole thing, but what I'm going to cut out, so I'm just going to go ahead and color just like I did the base color. And the reason I'm doing that is just so that when there's dimension, it kind of still looks like there's color, and so when you're seeing from the side, it's not just white or whatever below it. So it actually still has color, and like the color still kind of goes through the levels. So you don't have to cut the whole thing or color the whole thing, but just what's going to be above and color. And so that's why I'm just going to color this, and it's very much more pleasing to the eye if there's color below it as well as on the second level. Alright, so now we're going to go for the other inner circle. And you can do this however you want. I just do it just so that I maintain, use the same thing, maintain everything. So I'm going to go ahead and color all three, as you can see, just to make sure that there's dimension. And now I'm going to use the color of the center part, because I'm going to go ahead and cut on the base. I'm going to cut this out so that you can't see it. And I'm going to add the fourth level to kind of just make it pop just a little bit more. So I'm going to cut this out in the end, since it can't be seen once you get it all stacked. And that way you can kind of save on paper, because you only need, 3 sheets instead of 4 on this particular design. Sometimes you might need the 4 for each, 1 sheet for each level. And then on the top level, or on the third level card, I'm going to go ahead and color it out again so that, when you look at it at an angle, you can still see color. Just more pleasing on the eye. And I decided to go with 3 different colors on this one, but you can do whatever you want. I mean, it's your design, your colors. And we'll just continue coloring around. Oh, missed a spot. Alright, so now we got our three pieces all colored up. Just to kind of show you, so they're kind of stacked this way. And then the centerpiece will go on top of that one on the second level. So we just need to cut them out. And of course I go for the easy one. Nice little just circle around on this particular one. And you can cut however you want, however you want your dimension goes, depending on your stamp. Each stamp's going to be different. But you just cut out each level, And there you got your second level right there. Now we're going to cut out our that's our third level, actually, but now we're going to cut out our second level. Now I'm just going to trim off excess because it just makes it easier to work with on this particular design. We're not going to be using this, so, it doesn't matter how you cut it. And then we just go in and we just trim out our design. Now I found that on this one it was just easier just to go around and cut one side and then cut the other. So right now I'm just cutting one half of the curve. And how you do it is completely up to you. So now that I've got my cuts, I'm taking a craft knife and just cutting the straight little ones instead of trying to get my scissor in there. Made it a little bit easier. And now I've got my second level. And there we go. Our 3 levels are done. Now I'm going to come out the center level to make it a little bit forth. So I'm going to use a craft knife and just kind of rock around, depending on the craft knife and your level. You can do. You might be really good at cutting that circle. I wasn't, so I just kind of rocked my knife around and to make the edge. Been a little bit easier. It's not exactly a perfect circle, but it looks really good. It's close enough. And so I'm just gonna make some cuts around. Of course, it comes out where it looks like it's almost perforated. But that's okay. It's hard to see, in the black. So now that I'm gone around, I'm gonna turn around, and now I can really see what I've missed. So now I'll go back and I'll cut the little pieces that I've missed. And just work my way around. And now I've got my center. Looks really good. And I've got my 4 layers. Now on to building the dimension. So I'm going to match up just to show you. They all kind of just match up. The 4 levels. Now I'm going to get some foam squares, little foam squares, to kind of pop them up and add dimension. On this particular one, I'm going to use 4. Kind of place them in a square type pattern. Kind of gives just a little bit more stability. And I'm going to put 1 on this 4th level. Go ahead and place it on the 3rd. What I found out is usually like your hook. You can kind of just go in there and just put your fingernail on it and then just plop it up. And it makes it a little easier than trying to pull it off. That's what I found out in my experience. Then we're just going to put it on to kind of match the design. And give it a good push just to make sure it's sealed. And now we've got the top part of our dimension. And see with the colors, it looks pretty good. Then we're going to go ahead and put the pop dots on our next level. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in a square just to give it a little bit more stability, and you can use however many you want, whichever works for you. And now it's time to build it. And again, I'm just going to take my hook. Found this works a lot easier than other methods. You may have another method, and if you have another method that works just as good, feel free to email us that tip. We'd love to hear from you. And by the way, you can email us at news@mimiscropcircle.com, or you can also email us at info@mimiscropcircle.com. So I'm going to put this on and match the design. And There's our dimension. It's pretty nice. Looks good. And again, it's, you know, so why we color the bottom is just so it looks a little bit better. Kind of adds to the dimension. Alright, so now we're going to place it on our base design. And I'm going to match up the colors. Again, it just looks really good when you see it, the colors below it as well. Alright, give it a good push. And there we go. We've got our design dimensionalized. Alright, now we're going to put it on a mat to put it on our card. Now I just kind of had this mat already cut from another project, actually from the demo, so I'm going to go ahead and glue it on that, and then I'll trim it up. Now I'm using the Tombo's multi-purpose glue. It's a liquid glue. You use very little and it tacks really well. But you could use whatever glue you want. And then we'll place it on our mat. And then trim off the excess. Of course, you could do this ahead of time if you want. I just like being a little difficult, I guess. Alright, and there we go. Our design is now matted. And then we're going to place it on our card. And you can use whatever card. You can have it, open, portrait or landscape, however you want. It's totally up to you, but I'm going to go ahead and do it as a portrait. And because I like it that way. Going to go and test to make sure it fits before I glue it down, see where I want it. Again, we're going to use our Tombow multi-purpose glue. Just a little, not a whole lot needed with this glue. A little bit goes a long way. And we'll just put it, I'm going to put it a little high because I'm going to be putting a sentiment down below. But if you're not going to be using a sentiment or adding another element to the card, you can center it. Again, it's your project. You can tweak it however you want. So now I've stamped my sentiment, and I'm just going to cut it out, trim it up, and then we'll mat it as well. I like to keep my work area clean. Okay, really, it's only just for this demo. Alright, so I'm going to pick another color that I have a scrap of. Make sure that it works. Glue it down. Go ahead and get my matting border. And then this I'm just going to trim with my scissors. And there we go. We got our sentiment. And we'll glue that down. And there we go. And there we've got our stamp dimensionalized card. Hope you enjoyed this little demo. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.